Donald Trump spent today making ludicrous and inflammatory claims as he tries to justify sending the U.S. military into an American city against the wishes of the city's mayor and the state's governor. California's two senators also weighed in with a letter to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth today. A decision to deploy active duty military personnel within the United States should only be undertaken during the most extreme circumstances, and these are not them. That this deployment was made over the objections of state authorities is all the more unjustifiable. Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, and author of that letter, joins me now. Senator, are you clear on the legal authority, whether it actually exists, that's being claimed by the White House to send those 700 active duty Marines into the state of California?
I don't think the legal authority exists, and it's not clear that the administration has even articulated the basis under which they're doing this. First, they said they were relying for the countermanding of the governor by calling out the National Guard on Title X authorities, which require the president to go through the governor, not around the governor, not over the governor, but also require things like rebellion, which are clearly not in evidence here. He has also relied sort of generically on his Article II power as commander-in-chief. Again, there are laws, and the Constitution does not permit the president to call out the military against citizens of the United States or to call out the military for law enforcement purposes. They keep throwing around the term insurrection because they may want to rely on the Insurrection Act, but they hope these highly charged terms like rebellion, like insurrection, can put some kind of legal gloss on the lawlessness of their actions. And Chris, I think it all comes down to something the mayor pointed out quite rightly, and that is the president betrayed the promise that he would focus on violent criminals who were here unlawfully. He hasn't done that. He's resorted to these indiscriminate raids of workplaces, increasingly, I fear, outside of farms, traffic stops, the Home Depot, grabbing citizens and non-citizens alike, and prompting protest, which you would expect. And because I think this playbook will repeat around the country, it's important we recognize this playbook Trump is using. Once there are protests, and there are always going to be some violent agitators, and, you know, violence has no place in this. It ought to be condemned. It is condemned. Anybody using violence should be arrested and prosecuted. But the president wants these confrontations so that he can call out the military in other cities in America as part of his would-be dictator playbook. And we need to be aware of what we're seeing in L.A., this abuse of the military, we are likely to see everywhere.
Do you think there's reporting about sending tactical units to a variety of cities that are run by Democratic governors, that this is essentially a kind of provocation, that they're trying to recreate conditions of, you know, the 2020 protests we saw in George Floyd and produce a kind of casus belli for larger crackdowns?
I do think this is part of what they aim to do. I mean, this administration began with the pardoning of hundreds of people who attacked police officers. So in order to somehow reestablish their credentials as a law enforcement party when they betrayed law enforcement in the president's first acts in office, they want to somehow create this confrontation. I think they would be delighted if it were a nationwide confrontation where they can somehow claim they're the party of law and order when they are, in fact, the party of chaos and disorder. But I think that's part of what they're trying to achieve. We need to keep speaking out in favor of peaceful protest against any kind of violence directed at law enforcement, but also against abusing the military this way. We in California, like in most states, love our National Guard. They're there for us in wind and fire and hurricane and flood. We cherish our relationship with the Guard. Likewise, we have the greatest respect for the Marine Corps, and we don't want to see those forces abused in this way. It would only erode public trust in those important institutions.
The president, of course, has broken with tradition to create this unprecedented military parade in peacetime on Saturday in Washington, D.C. It's also his birthday. He threatened today explicitly the use of, quote, I quote him here, very heavy force against, quote, protesters. The protesters of this would be met with very heavy force. What do you think of that?
Well, you know, this is kind of classic would-be strongman kind of talk. He wants a military parade on his birthday. It's going to cost us over $40 million for that. They're wasting over $140 million on this deployment of the National Guard when it wasn't necessary in Los Angeles. This abuse of taxpayer resources, this abuse of the military, this use of the military to provoke a confrontation that apparently the president wants because he is just relishing a fight. We have to recognize it for what it is. In addition to a terrible abuse of military power, it is also degrading our military readiness in terms of threats around the world. But also, it's a distraction from the fact he hasn't done what he promised in lowering prices. He hasn't done anything to improve the quality of life for people. And after this, big brawl he had with Elon Musk, he's looking to change the topic.
Senator Adam Schiff of California, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.